Hello everyone, Palmer here, and I'm going to talk about the Frontier Scum one-shot Oregon Rail. This is the one-shot located in the back of the book, so you get it by getting Frontier Scum. And I gotta say, this might be my favorite one-shot of all time. I've ran this thing 4 times, and every single time it's been a hit, both with new players and old players to the tabletop scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start off with a review of Frontier Scum and the scenario as a whole, and then I'm going to go into running it room by room. And what I do in room by room is this is a very prop heavy, a very physical scenario. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into it. So to start off, to talk about Frontier Scum is that this is from the Morkborg family of games. I would say this is a spin-off. I feel like Frontier Scum is more directly comedic than the other entries in the genre, which the other ones have like this black humor. This definitely does as well, but this one's a little sillier. It's a simple D20 plus your stat modifier, with the big exception that makes this system stand out is the no rolling to hit. So hits just hit, which is great, and it gets people into the action and gets people shooting and swinging, and you never feel like you're in that classic RPG issue where you're just sitting there, oh, do I hit? Nope. Do enemies hit? Nope. Do I hit? Nope. It just very much is blam, 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 smoke clears, half the room is gone, which is great for such a fun cowboy game and a fun cowboy setting. The hat system is everyone has a hat, and when you get shot, before you roll for damage, you can say, it's going to blow off my hat, and it blows off your hat, and you just take no damage, and that applies to both you and the enemies. So it's super fun, super fun to have everyone be losing their hats, and then after the battle, you can scavenge for your hats along with some ammo and stuff. Overall, great idea, very funny, it very much fits that cowboy tone. And the system itself is great. Other than that, there are a lot of fun random tables and fun random events. It very much feels like a Morkborg game, a little less explosive in style, I would say. I like the poster format. Everything feels like an old Wanted poster. So it's going to be a hit when you run it. One thing I do, if we're going to go into taking notes that I already do, is that I kind of scrap the setting when setting up this scenario. I have the terrain running across the big empty or the big nothing, and I don't sweat when players talk about I'm the best from this side of the Mississippi or whatever. I'm not like, no, that's not lore accurate. You got to do X, Y, and Z. Just run it as a straight cowboy game, and I guarantee they're going to love it. It's going to be hilarious. So going into Oregon Rail, spoiler free, they're introduced to the Oregon Rail by being prisoners on the namesake rail line. This one shot, I feel like, encourages roleplay through a fun mix of social and combat encounters, and despite being on a literal railroad, it does offer some surprising amount of player choice, but at the same time, that railroad is fantastic because it really helps you dictate where things are running. I've run this scenario a total of 4 times, and each time was a side-splitting hoot. It fits perfectly into the 3-hour less time slot. The cowboy theme gets everybody involved. Everybody understands what cowboys are about. Everyone likes to be silly, scummy frontier dwellers, and it gives everybody enough space to really be their own type of cowboy. I found that no one cowboy is unique. Even if you aren't really a fan of the Borgs and the extended family, the scenario itself is a really look into the absurd hobby that is playing make-believe with our friends and acquaintances, which is really what this is about. And we're sitting here playing make-believe with made-up dolls in our heads, and it's great. It's why it's so much fun. So going into some spoilers for this scenario has some things going for it out of the gate. So first to keep in mind is that your group needs to be okay with potential PvP, because this scenario encourages it at the end. I've never had a single group walk away with more than one person after a showdown goes south with everybody in the party. The train really consists of a room-by-room problem simulator, and this is something that's going to be a little tough to wrap your head around if you're not used to this style of game and DMing, which was a problem for me when I came from, the classic 5e stuff, where there's no real solutions presented. It really is just problem after problem for your players to solve. Sure, there's some stuff you can do to help come with hints, but you really need to be reflexive and able to work with your players on this one. This is not you're looking for the correct answer. There is no correct answer. If something sounds like it's going to work, it's going to work. And given that roles are tougher and more punishing, players and you should kind of go out of your way to avoid rolling the dice when necessary. When it's funny, sure, go for it. When there's actually something interesting happening on failure, go for it. But if the players lay out a fantastic plan on how to steal a guard's keys or do something like that, then I just let them have it. Don't even sweat the rolls if it makes sense. So story-wise, this turns from a stealthy prison train escape into a creature feature with a mad scientist, with a huge combat set piece at the end, which feels very natural. The scientist has been experimenting on the prisoners, turning them into mutants with the help of his newfound blood vials, coming from the real beating heart at the front of the train. Mutants break out and rush to kill the heart at the front to free themselves from their own suffering, as killing heart will kill all those who use the blood. As the PCs will probably find and use these blood vials for healing, given how punishing the game is on damage, it really puts a great moral choice at the center of this scenario, and it always leads to player versus players showdown, as there's only one person allowed standing at the end. I have some nitpicks, especially about the way the mutants are handled in the last train car, but I'll touch on that when we go over that rail. So it's not all perfect and definitely requires a lot of quick thinking and a lot of logic from you as a DM. But overall, the scenario is thrilling, dynamic, and funny exploration into what makes good role-play sessions tick. Usually has some great inter-character conflict, zany meta moments that kind of break the mold of RPGs in general, and tons of choices that are going to have the players debating if they backed the wrong horse. Overall, one of my favorite one-shots of all time, and truly a one-shot. I've heard one-shot thrown around a lot when it really is 2-3 sessions. This is a true one-shot. And it's fantastic. I would recommend anybody play this. This book and this system are worth playing just for this one shot alone, in my opinion. This is great. You really cannot get any better than the ideas presented in this book. So now we're going to be going over this room by room, and we're going to be discussing some of the things that I do, some of the stuff that I've changed, what I do prop-wise, because this is a very physical scenario. This is definitely one I recommend you run in person and have tons of just handouts and little kits and kabobbles for people to have. So the general situation is they start locked inside this train car. And by the way, all this art can be found online for free on the Frontier Scum website. I've put it into a PowerPoint and I've trimmed some of the car names so they can't see it. And this is what I have displaying behind me as I'm playing. I have a little monitor set up and just use left and right on my keyboard to show it, and it's been great because it's cleared up any confusion we have about what room goes to where. So first, the players are going to be stuck in this prison car. I love to set the game up here. They're classic in a prison car in stripes. I, let them keep their hats. And everyone at my table has a physical hat to be wearing. We all have a plethora of silly hats in our closet shoved somewhere, so everyone has silly hats because I see it as it's the biggest sin is to take another man's hat from off their head before they're dead. I've also had, on 2 occasions, 2 out of the 4 occasions on this, there's a roll here if you can hide something, and I've had to play roll 1, losing everybody their aces, which is a mechanic to reroll dice, and they've had none for the rest of the game. So both games basically run with no aces. I also have the guard number changed from 3, reduced down to 2, and I have the 2 guards arguing over who gets to carry the shotgun. And that is just to introduce a great little dynamic that the players can also take advantage of to escape from the train car. Because really, there's no solution to getting out of this train car. It's just whatever sounds naturally. I've had players use their pet mice while they distract the guard to try and lift a key. I've had players break their fingers so they get slipped out of their handcuffs and get out. All sorts of stuff like that. Gambling to distract the guards and then lifting the key off them. Whatever you want to do, just encourage the player to go with it. I also like to set it up when I'm introducing the game. When they're all locked around each other, I like to go around the table and ask a series of questions. The first one being, I just point to a random player, usually go left to right. What's the name of your gang? And what's the name of your gang? And what were you guys famous for stealing? And, chicken heist or something silly is usually the answer. Then I go to what happened on the day that you got caught. And then they'll tell me about some heist gone wrong, just come out at the top of their head. I'll turn to the next player, say, whose fault was it? And they'll tell me someone whose fault it is. Maybe it's going to be someone around the table. Usually is. That's always funny. And I pivot one last time to the last player, and I would say, whose fault is it really? And that just sets up a great little player dynamic where everyone's already hooked. Everyone already knows. They already know each other in game. And it's a great way of setting up some maybe already bad feelings at the beginning and really gets in that interpersonal drama. And it just allows a funny role-playing creative moment, and it lets the players know that they're going to be involved with making the story just as much as I am. So back to the train car. So again, 2 guards arguing over a shotgun, usually pretty humorous. I like to set up this scenario as a comedy scenario, and that way it makes the horror on the back end hit that much harder, and the scenario gets creepy, because this is an acid western. Once your players figure out how to get on out of this, they'll generally keep on moving forward. Going to the next car is the barracks car. Now this one is probably my favorite room. This car is completely silent, and if the players talk out of character, the guards will hear them, which is a great way to like break meta and to let your players know that this is not going to be any normal RPG scenario. I like to take it one step further. There's a key ring hidden in this room somewhere, hanging on a hook. I have, and I recommend anyone get this, a big old set of physical keys. This thing is jangly, it's loud, it's got tons of stuff on it, and I like to hold it out. I even hold it out over my finger, over the DM screen, and the players have to come and physically reach and grab the keys off my finger while being completely silent, all of them. You can hear a pin drop from like 5 houses away. It is fantastic. It gets everybody in the mood. Everyone is forced into being the character. And I find that you force them to be in character in this train car because they're not allowed to talk out of character. They can't say, hey, Bob, how was the game this weekend? Or even, oh, when we get these keys, let's do X, Y, and Z. No, they have to all be in character, and this keeps them in character as the scenario goes. So again, big physical key ring, hanging on your finger, hanging on something like this, put it over the DM screen and let them grab it and take it while being as quiet as possible. Once they have that, they can keep on moving forward. Gambling car. So in this, you have several guards gambling and the mess car, and several guards gambling and someone cooking food. My players in all of my games have all stolen the guards' clothes and usually made it through, made some excuses. I like to raise the tension a little bit to let them know they're not under suspicion yet, but to start a conversation with the guards saying, oh, you're not from around here, blah, 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 and see how far I can try and catch them in this conversation to admitting stuff. I also give that shotgun that the chef has leaning on the barrel over there, seeing if they can distract the guard, distract the chef, and grab the shotgun, which has always been a great time full of humorous conversations. I kind of have her as that like Ellie from Borderlands kind of style that old Bessie loves talking and chatting. And I don't have the guards be too aggressive here because they are sitting there gambling, not really paying attention to anybody walking through, but it is a great source of tension and lets them know that, yeah, they need to be on their A game moving through this place. They can't just waltz in guns and firing because all these guards will murder your party if they get the chance. Moving on. Next, we have the cage car. This is generally a respawn. Also, there's the horses here. I have all your players' horses be in this room. There's a count on the page. I ignore it, and it's always going to be however many players you have. It's their horses, and it contains the rest of their stuff that they lost. Now, prior to this moment, I'm generally playing train sounds, chugga, chugga, chugga in the background. When they suit up, this is when we switch to cowboy music. This is when the guitars, the twangy guitars kick in, and this is when they know shit got real, and it's going down, because now they have their guns, they got every other thing they need, and they're ready to rip. Next up is the lab car, and this is where you got to set the scene with the scientist. And this is important that they hit. So if they jump a train, they're going to miss it. Shove in a few extra of those prisoner train cars in between and make sure that they hit this room because it is very important that they hit it for the plot and the way the game's going to go. This, just set the scene. Don't really let them react when you describe, the harpy tears its way out and gets the doctor. The players are going to be weirded out because, especially if they think this is just some sort of cowboy game, all of a sudden we got harpy women running around. Make the doctor friendly, very friendly, as shown, creepily friendly, but don't overdo it because you don't want the PCs just to shoot him in the face right off the bat. I find that his offer of, even if they're prisoners and he knows it, he's willing to offer them freedom and employment and whatever they want to get his experiments under control. Also, it's very big that he offers them the blood vials, which if they're damaged, they're probably going to use at this point. After that, they're going to keep on moving. into another prison car. This one's destroyed. Everyone in it is dead already. The big thing, too, is that any PCs that have injected themselves have the rest of the table who haven't close their ears, and then you tell that one that you can hear the kill the engine, kill the engine. It's great because it builds paranoia where you're like, oh, wow, the one person who injected blood vials can hear stuff that we can't hear now. Wonder what that's all about. I've even had players inject themselves just out of sheer curiosity, which is great because it just increases the total party wipe or the potential at the end. So we'll move through that pretty easily. We'll come to the sweet car. This one's a little tough because there are mutants currently ransacking it. Most of my players have always tried to tell the mutants that they're not on their side. I'm generally give a lot of leeway with this. Generally, they'll even strip off their guard uniforms and insist that they're prisoners or try and prove it somehow. And if it sounds good, I'll let it happen. The mutants are pretty irritated and need all the help they can get. Two things I use as prop-wise in this room is I use a pistol, fake good and gun with the number 16 on the side. This can hint the safe combination at the end, and I find that if I don't have a physical prop with this in front of them, the players will absolutely forget that the gun has number 16 on it because there's a lot going on. It's a lot to write down. And number 2 is I have a book. So the first person who wants to search the room will get the book, and this is an empty one, and I just made this for all my tabletop games because I love hollow books. They're neat. I put the doctor's diary in here with the information about the heart and the last one standing. And this is also fantastic because it's hidden information. Your players don't have to share it. They may hide it, they may pretend not to read it, or they may pretend it's nothing and keep a hold of it. They may not let other players read it. Great source of tension. Definitely hide that. Don't just spit it out the table because it is kind of a paragraph to read and it can kind of break flow. Much nicer to casually hand this off to someone and then move on to another player and start describing the relics or the guns or whatever else they find. And while this player's eyes slowly get wider and wider as they're reading this horrible knowledge about the thing that they may or may not have just injected themselves with and the true stakes of what they're dealing with, and that the doctor's pretty evil. So there's a second half of the room. They can find more stuff, more looting. Now here comes the gun car. This is a tough one, and this I've tried to run several different ways to varying degrees of success. It's tough because, so there's machine gunners on one end, shooting the mutants on the other. So, very deadly push. This is usually where I see lots of blood vial injections, lots of mutant deaths, maybe even a player death, because it's tough. It's a tough push. I generally take them about 5 rounds to push up to the other side. They like to get behind the blob. So the few ways I've run this is just running the mutants, pushing them up, and they get kind of gunned down as it goes. And the guards, I feel, will more naturally aim for the mutants than the prisoners because the mutants expectedly are more dangerous. I've also given off control when I had a smaller group of 2. I've written down all the mutant information on flashcards and given them out to the players that they also controlled the mutants, and that was a hit. Regardless, it's a little messy as written and requires a little bit of finagling work. It'll depend a lot on your group. I think the best way to do it is just to describe the mutants pushing up and getting gunned down every single round until possibly at the end there's 1 or 2 mutants remaining and the players are exchanging gunfire. I also like when we're back here at this section of the train car, they have to turn to roll to hit. They're not just getting the free hits off anymore because it is difficult shots down this hallway. And when they get closer, it's no longer roll to hit and they can just start capping people. Usually I have a guard take a round when the gunner dies to get up and get on the gun. That gives the PCs about a round to breathe because this is a cool fight, but if they party wipe here, you're kind of missing the cool climax. And I'm not saying hide your rolls or fudge your rolls. I never do a roll in the open so everyone can see exactly what they're rolling. But if a party wipe here, so be it. But definitely I would be a little nicer if you can, and definitely take the hatred out on the mutants, not the players. But good set piece. It's a good set piece. I usually have machine gun noises ready to go on my phone so that when they open the door, it's just instantly loud machine gun noises, like World War I era machine guns. Really freaks everybody out and gets them to know, like, this is it. This is a huge fight. And again, you're trying to damage them at the very least so that they're injecting blood vials, they're losing their hats. And all these guards have hats as well, so don't be afraid to have the guards' hats start flying off. Remember, you got to do it before damage is called, which is a great source of tension. We're going to roll on to the heart. This is usually where the showdown between your party occurs. Usually it's just your party standing here by this point, but the heart is talking to your players and is going to be insisting, as your players will probably know by now, to kill it. And if they kill it, anyone that's injected themselves with the blood will also die, including all the mutants, the doctor, and everything. If the players are on the path to get the blood, the doctor will show up. I usually have him arrive with 2 guards because I found he's a little weak as written. 2 guards behind him, shotgun ready to roll. And he is ready to kill the players. He is another big villain, which is great because usually they're sweating, they're a little hurt after the train car fight, they're debating what to do. And this is a great moment just to have the doctor appear. And as written, you got the luck rolls and the perception rolls and stuff to see if he does it. And 2d6 damage in the back is nothing to joke about. Great moment. They usually hate the doctor by this point, given that they know the experiments that he's been doing and the situation that's been going down. Usually doctor fight goes down. Then the guns turn on each other. Because they know that only one person can walk away alive, and the one person that does gets this insane power of health regeneration and ability to grant blood to teammates and whatever. Doesn't really matter. I mean, your players are kind of bloodthirsty at this point. They're going to start shooting at each other. A house rule that I do to make this go down easier is everyone has little fake guns. I think we have a little flintlock pistol pirate thing here. We have a few other airsoft guns and stuff. If you point this at another player and you say bang, you shoot them. Usually we'll do that to showdown. Usually it goes bang, and then they go, oh, bang, and then someone else goes, oh, bang, and then bang. And then usually everyone's, 4-way showdown, everyone's all start shooting each other. That's when we'll make that the initiative order, and then we'll go down that list. Just keep running down it. Basically around the table until one person's left standing, maybe, usually. Maybe people start injecting themselves with blood again at that point. But overall, that's great. That's when the guns fly. That's when the showdown happens. That's what you're here for. If this is going to hurt your players' feelings or they're going to walk away salty that their random cowboy died, then don't do it. But every time I've run this, all 4 times, all of my players have started gunning each other down. And it's always received hilariously and always received positively because they know after what they've just gone through, they know how the game works and they know it's going down. As any good cowboy movie does. This is when you bust out the true cowboy music, 4-way showdown, blast, blast, blast. It's great. Great. There's been some even last-minute betrayals here after a plan has been worked out. Fantastic. Then you got the final train car, which is just has the safe in it. And that's where we close it with the one cowboy riding off into the sunset, usually alone towards whatever town it says in the front, some gutter town. I'm going to go over a few more props I use to run this, and I think that'll close it out. So, first and foremost, for blood vials, I like to hand out physical blood vials. I think I made these out of Mod Podge and red paint. And it's great just to remind players how many vials they have remaining, so you can just look and see who at the table has blood vials. I do give everyone, like I said, a little plastic pistol. Very funny when guns start shooting. I give everybody, and this is across all my tabletop RPGs, name tags. I am terrible at names. I'm terrible at names in real life. I'm terrible at names in tabletop RPGs. So if everyone's wearing one of these, I know exactly what to call them. All the other players know exactly what they call them. Lets you put the funny nicknames on, and it encourages everyone to stay in character when you can reach across and be like, what was your name again? You're like, no, that's Gummy. That's my good friend Gummy. And you can stare him down and put a bullet in his head. I also picked these up at a convention at some point. I think you can get them on Amazon, though. I've seen them around. Little D6 bullet guns, D6 bullet dice. Very funny. Very, very funny. People love these. Most guns in this game are D6, so it's always funny to start chucking literal bullets at each other across the table. And that's it. That's what I use to run the game. Make sure everyone's got a hat. Go room by room. And keep in mind, this is a problem simulator. It is not your job to think of solutions to these problems. It's up to your players to think of solutions to these problems. You're just there to present them and have a good time arbitrating them. Final closing thoughts. Treat this as a comedy. It makes the horror ending that much better. Have a great time. This is here to have fun. This is a funny one. This one comes around rarely. I've read a lot of one-shots, and this is by far my favorite. Thanks, everybody.